really is a flood tunnel, it means there is a money pit. Think of the laborious effort, but more even important than the laborious effort.
Disaster hits Oak Island as the money pit floods again, threatening to destroy the crew's heavy machines. Thick mud surges upward, trapping equipment and sending workers into panic. Rick Lagina bravely edges toward the flooded pit, desperate to find what's causing the disaster. Let us now reveal what Rick spots beneath the muddy water, a mysterious wooden tunnel carved centuries ago suddenly collapsing before his eyes. When the money pit fought back. It all started early that day on Oak Island when the sun barely pushed through thick clouds hanging low over the digging site. Everything was wet, muddy, and quiet except for the rumble of machines and the buzz of walkie-talkies. The crew had a feeling it might be a big day. Hopes were high and boots were deep in the muck. Everyone stood around the big drill rig near the infamous money pit, that stubborn hole they've been chasing for what felt like forever. Generations of treasure hunters had come and gone, but that hole never gave up its secrets, only more dirt and problems. But this time, something was different. Something buried deep was about to change all those years of investigations. The team fired up their heavy-duty claw rig, this monster of a machine designed to scoop up whatever was hiding deep underground. They called it a hammer grab, and today it was going down deep, way past 50 feet, past 70, until it hit 100 feet.
It's difficult not to want to go down and put your hands on it and take measurements. Unfortunately, it's too deep.
That's when the machine jerked a little. The claw came up full of wood chunks, thick mud, and something that looked just different enough to make everyone crowd around. A few of the wood pieces looked squared off, maybe cut by hand. One even had a little symbol carved into it. 3 lines, kind of like a Roman numeral 3. Suddenly, everyone was pointing and snapping pictures like it was the crown jewels. They dropped the pile onto the inspection table, poked around, and nodded at each other. Someone whispered something about old construction, maybe a tunnel, maybe a hidden shaft. It all sounded exciting, but the reality was, it was just some old wood with a few scratches. Still, on Oak Island, that was enough to get hearts pumping. While some of the crew focused on that wood pile, trouble started brewing beneath their feet. The metal casing that held the dig site together began to shudder. The ground shifted and a thick, gurgling sound echoed from below. Water, lots of it. A slow leak at first, but it picked up fast, rising through the hole like something had been cracked open down there. Some of the workers took a step back, others leaned in, confused. Then it clicked. This was another flood. Not just a puddle, a real, fast-moving, soaking wet disaster. Water poured in, mixing with clay and rock and turning the bottom of the pit into a thick soup. Equipment started getting stuck. The big claw couldn't get a grip.
You want to look up in there, but you can see it's starting to cave.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
There's only a certain amount of iron that's supporting that very massive oscillator.
Every time they pulled it up, it brought more goo than clues. The sound of the rushing water filled the area. You could see it in their faces. This wasn't part of the plan. The money pit was doing what it always did when it got poked too hard. It was biting back. One of the brothers, always the brave one, grabbed a flashlight and crawled near the edge. He peered in, probably hoping to see the problem. All he saw was bubbling sludge and shadows. Still, he waved off the crew and stayed down there kneeling in the mud. People watched from a distance, unsure if they should stop him or trust that he knew what he was doing. Back at the wash plant, the rest of the team kept their focus on the smaller finds. They rinsed, sorted, and studied every little chunk of debris they hauled out of the hole. There was a bit of leather, worn and brittle. A chunk of concrete with a weird texture. Nothing screamed treasure, but each piece was bagged and labeled like it might unlock a secret. Over by the swamp, another group waded through waist-deep water and soft ground, pulling up bits of pottery and scraps of stone. Nothing whole, just pieces. Shards that made you wonder what once stood there. Still nothing that changed the game. They thought they were done with that spot. But one beep changed everything. Maps, myths, and the War Room's revelation. Someone decided to check Lot 5 again. It was one of those spots they've searched over and over, but they still held out hope. This time, they ran a metal detector over a pile of dirt from a past dig. The machine beeped once, strong and steady. They dug carefully and found it, a single copper nail. A tiny thing, green from age, but definitely man-made. It wasn't shiny, but it was solid. They rushed it to the lab. The expert showed up wearing gloves, goggles, the whole deal. He turned the nail in his fingers and gave a half smile. He said it looked like something used in shipbuilding or, well, not shipbuilding. Basically, it was old and made by someone, but that's as far as he could go. Still, it went in the box marked interesting. That evening, the crew filed into the war room. The air was thick with tired breath and coffee steam. On the table were a few books, big and dusty, with folded maps and pages filled with odd symbols. 2 researchers had come back with new theories. Their books were loaded with drawings. Some looked like treasure maps, others like puzzles no one had finished.
We have your map that shows Nova Scotia, and we have a map that seems to be a French map of Oak Island.
One sketch showed a weird cross pattern that lined up with a drawing of the island. That got attention fast. The 2 researchers stood tall, flipping pages and pointing to symbols. They talked about ancient builders, secret societies, old sailors, and even holy men hiding sacred stuff in the ground. They said the symbol on the wood matched a carving found on a stone tablet in Europe. They tied it all together with lines and arrows like a giant game of connect the dots. The room sat still. No one blinked. Everyone just leaned forward. The theories twisted and turned, talking about hidden codes, ancient tunnels, and religious groups carrying gold across oceans. They mentioned the Knights, some secret orders, and even whispered about treasure being buried as part of a mission. There was mention of Canada, popes, kings, and even maps drawn centuries ago. They spoke for what felt like hours. The idea sounded wild, but nobody stood up to challenge it. It was one of those things that made no sense but felt good to believe in. The treasure was still hiding, but hope had a new map to follow. Meanwhile, the water kept rising back at the site. Pumps worked non-stop, growling and spitting as they tried to clear the pit. The crew rotated shifts, swapping out soaked boots and wet gloves. Machines groaned under the pressure. Every time they thought they were making progress, more water leaked in. It came from deep underground, as if the island had veins filled with cold, dark liquid. Every foot they dug brought more questions. They tested the soil, checked the pressure, even ran some fancy equipment to see what was going on below. The results were confusing. Some scans showed voids, hollow spaces under the surface. Others showed dense rock. The reports didn't match up, like the island was shifting around just to mess with them. A few team members walked the perimeter, looking for signs on the surface. Small dips in the ground, spots where water bubbled up, cracks in the dirt. It was like chasing ghosts. One guy stepped into a soft patch and sank up to his knee. They had to pull him out with a rope. Despite the mess, the team kept pushing. They ran the hammer grab again and again. Sometimes it came up empty. Other times it brought bits of wood, chunks of rock, even more of that strange leather. One piece had stitching just barely visible. It was old, but how old? No one could say for sure. Every little thing they found got packed up, sent to the lab, and studied under bright lights. The experts gave long explanations about fiber types, wood grain, and how deep it was buried. Still nothing that proved treasure, just more pieces of the never-ending puzzle. That old nail and those strange drawings got the team thinking maybe this whole island was planned. Whispers from Lot 5. By the end of the week, the site looked worse. Mud was everywhere. The ground around the pit was soft and sinking. The big machines sat like dinosaurs in a swamp, too heavy to move, too deep to dig. The crew set up barriers, pumped out more water, and kept digging.
But she cutting through it?
She's trying to. Come on.
They weren't quitting, not yet. In the next war room session, someone brought up an old map again. This time it showed a layout that matched the island's shape almost perfectly. The theory was that it wasn't natural, that someone hundreds of years ago shaped the land to hide something. The theory stretched wide: temples, rituals, ancient builders using stars to line up secret vaults. A few eyebrows lifted, but no one laughed. Not on Oak Island. The theory connected to the copper nail, the leather, even the water. They said the flooding wasn't an accident. It was a trap, a design to stop people from reaching the vault. A warning maybe, or just a smart way to keep treasure safe forever. The team bought into it. Plans were drawn, new digging paths were marked. More money was put into machines, studies, and tools. The digging would go deeper, wider, longer. The island wasn't done messing with them, and they weren't done chasing ghosts. The ground shook when big trucks rolled by. The air smelled like wet metal and old roots. Birds circled overhead like even they were waiting for something to pop up. Next time, the crew plans to hit the swamp harder. They say a new scan showed a shape that looks too perfect to be natural. Maybe a boat, maybe a wall, maybe nothing, but that won't stop them. In the middle of a foggy morning on Oak Island, something wild started happening. The swamp near the top of the triangle-shaped part of the island was acting weird. Mud bubbled, the boards creaked, and the ground gave off this odd smell like wet wood and old coins. The dig team had just shown up, all excited to keep looking for hidden stuff, but what they got was panic. The boards deeper in the muck looked stronger than the ones up top, which was kind of strange. Usually stuff closer to the surface is in better shape, but not here. Nope. Something was going on underneath, and it wasn't good. Everyone had their eyes on the pit, waiting for another surprise, and it delivered. Right when they started poking around for more clues, the ground made this horrible sound, like something groaning. Then the swamp started to flood, fast. 1 minute they were standing on damp dirt, and the next, water came rushing in like it had been waiting forever. The dig team scrambled. Mud flew everywhere. Shovels dropped. Even the big machines started to shake. They backed them up just in time, or they would have sunk. It was bad, real bad. The money pit, that deep hole everyone's been chasing for years, was swallowing itself again. People started yelling. Nobody knew what to do. It was like the island had a mind of its own and decided, no, you're not getting the treasure today. Not now. Maybe not ever. Rick Lagina, the guy who's been chasing this dream forever, looked like he just saw a ghost. His nephew Alex was nearby, covered in mud, trying to get a better look at what just popped out of the earth. It was a piece of old shaped wood. Not some broken plank. This looked fancy, like someone carved it on purpose. And it was deep, 3 feet down at least. Why was that even there? That one piece got them thinking. If there's shaped wood, then maybe there was a structure, a hidden room, a tunnel, or maybe even a trap, some kind of setup to protect the treasure. But the water made it nearly impossible to keep going. They had to pause everything. Not far from the flooding pit, the team found another strange spot, Lot 5. That place had been giving off weird vibes for years, and now it was spilling secrets. A round shape under the ground, almost like a foundation. Fiona Steele, one of the dig experts, had been working that area with her crew. They found this old mortar, the kind that doesn't belong near the surface. It matched soil found way down deep, way below where normal dirt should be. They also found coins, real old ones. Some looked like they came from way back in the 14th century, others from the 18th. That's a long stretch of time. What if the island's secret wasn't treasure, but a warning meant to stay buried? Like, comment with your wildest theory and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.